Roll call.
Commissioner Bailey,
Here.
Commissioner Bunting,
Here.
Commissioner Gay,
Here.
Commissioner Sopsey,
Here.
Commissioner Owens,
Here.
and present is Administrator Tom Delhanty.
Tim, but
Tim,
Oh.
sorry, Tim, I'm worried about your last name there. I'm Deputy Clerk Teresa Bushley.
George, didn't get you the invocation?
bow your heads, please. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the day and the blessings given to us. We ask, Father, continued prayers for our servicemen and women overseas and at home, also our first responders, Father. We just want to thank you for the pleasant winter weather we've been having all winter. And if you could do it, spring could come a little quicker. We ask now you be with us through the deliberation of this body for the good of folks of Gratiot County. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Join us for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Move the agenda is presented.
Moved by George, supported by Tim to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Carried. Brief public comment. Okay, consideration of the consent calendar.
Move the consent calendar is presented.
Support. Moved by George, supported by Tim to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Administrators report.
Yeah, a few things. First, just a quick report on a couple of meetings. The first one I had last Wednesday over at My Michigan Alma. I met with the administrative staff over there. The title is CEO or CAO, but Glenn King and Jennifer Marr. And they were very impressive in enumerating all the things they do at the hospital and some of the improvements that have happened there over the last 5 and 10 years. It was very impressive. Meeting was about 2 hours long, give you an idea of how much we had to talk about. So just one more meeting in my attempt to get to know the community better, but that was definitely a worthwhile visit. A couple of updates on RFPs. We had talked about the agricultural lease RFP at the airport that is live now. It's on our webpage. It will be posted in the newspapers here this coming week. Bids will be due on that, I believe we said on March 3rd. But anyway, early March, and hopefully we'll have all this resolved long before any agricultural activity starts. Second RFP, what was due today was for those internal control audits. I was hoping to be able to bring to you a recommendation tonight, but there were 12 of them. So I've got a little bit of work to do to review those to bring a recommendation to you, so you could expect that at the next meeting. And then very briefly, I want to walk through the next tranche of policies that are in front of you. These are not anything you need to act on tonight, but they're provided to you to look at before the next meeting. These policies will also be presented to department heads next week at our department head meeting for their input as well. First one is the commissioner purchases policy. This is one that was unique, and then I could find everything that was already in place that the board had passed recently. So there are really no changes to this. A couple of grammar things here and there, punctuation, but as far as the content of the policy is concerned, that is pretty well untouched. The next one is the contracts policy. A number of changes in here, just a couple of things to highlight. The first one, under the first page under authority, this might be news to the clerk's office, but probably not, but it might be to the board. And that's a statute that requires all accounts of the Board of Commissioners, including contracts, have to be deposited with the county clerk. This is one of those issues that, again, I don't know what's happened in the past, but moving forward, I'll certainly make sure that the clerk receives those signed copies, and I'll maintain a file as well in my office so that we can keep track of what's going on with the various policies. On the second page, a new item is contract negotiation. If there are going to be any contracts negotiated on behalf of the county where there's a purchase price involved, this section, and this is new, would require my attendance or somebody representing the administration office to be in attendance. For instance, Todd might be a good candidate too, just so that we make sure that we're not having something negotiated that the board will not support. I did have an experience with this in the past where a well-meaning department head went out and negotiated a contract and brought it in, the board rejected it. And you can imagine the embarrassment now having to go back to the vendor to say, well, despite all of our work, it wasn't approved. We're going to avoid that. Another item that is will be written into this policy if you approve it is that the board chairperson is the only person authorized to sign a contract on behalf of the county. And that's actually written in statute. So that's not anything we're making up. But that will mean, and there's a process written in here that any contracts that you've approved, I need to have them here. So board chair sign either at the meeting after it's approved or the following meeting or when I run into him, whatever. But there'll be a direct path to getting them signed. And the chair will also know that if the board has not approved it, that he will not sign. So we'll hopefully quash any problem that might happen there. Department heads under section 6.3 will be required to monitor their contracts and particularly the expiration dates. So if a contract's going to expire, it's up to that department who is managing that contract to make sure they're in front of you to get that contract reapproved or rebid or whatever might have to happen. And then finally, the last item on here is the enforcement mechanism. If there is a violation of the policy, it could result in disciplinary action. This is primarily for the at-will employees. Again, well intended. If there's a violation of this policy, it's severe enough, there may be a consequence. The next policy, is there any questions on any of that? This is just the nickel tour. The next one is the Social Security number privacy policy. It's another policy that needs very little tweaking at all. It's all punctuation and spelling. It's a policy that's pretty well spelled out in state statute what we have to do. Not deviating from anything. The next one on the stack that I gave you is called the settlement of claims policy. If you just set that one aside a second, there was a development this morning that I need to talk about that relates directly to this. The next one is the purchasing policy. This one will be vetted at the administration staff meeting tomorrow morning and also with the department heads. This is pretty much just clean up mostly again of grammar and punctuation, but a few new things on page 2, item 5.11. We're defining what public funds means. This is an attempt to head off questions that we inevitably get when we are using public funds. There are certain restrictions. There are things we cannot spend public funds on. Department of Treasury lines that up for us, and we have to avoid those things. I inevitably get the question of, well, this is a grant, so it's not really public funds. That's the wrong answer. If the county has it, it's public funds. End of story. So that's it. There's no discretion if it's a grant or if it's a special fund or if it's a county, in the county books, it's a public fund. The next group I'd really like you to take a look at before the next meeting. It starts on page 5. And these are the purchasing limits. Anything under $5,000, departments or budget administrators are allowed to make those purchases so long as it's budgeted. Anything between $5,000 and $10,000 will require 2 quotes. Anything between $10,000 and $25,000 requires 3 quotes, and anything over $25,000 will require a sealed bid. And that's just the policies the way it stands today. This is an opportunity if you are a mind to do so, the board to change those numbers. So if you want to move them up or down, next meeting will be a great time to talk about that, talk about the pros and cons of doing it. On page 6, item 6.6, there's one called emergency procurements, and adding one item at the bottom, and is that there are any emergency purchases that exceed $5,000. And again, I'm tying it back to those limits we just talked about. There is an emergency purchase in excess of $5,000. You will be notified of that at the next meeting where you meet. So example we had at Ogama County, a battery and a generator that needed to be replaced because it was actually ran the 911 tower. So if it was out, obviously there could be a problem. So we didn't hesitate. We got it priced. We got a new battery installed. I showed up at the next board meeting along with the undersheriff. We explained to the board why we had to do it, process we followed. Everybody was fine with it, but you need to be informed. That's the main thing. We did not have time to go through the quoting process. We needed the battery. We needed it now. probably was a sole source item anyway, but because it came about the way it did, not going through the normal process, it was called out at the next meeting and the board was presented that information. The balance of that is again, just correcting of grammar, sentence structure, and things of that nature.
Before we move on that one, do we have any idea when these figures were set? Because they seem old.
That was at
Today's standards, that's,
2016 when that was,
so these 5,000, 510. Okay.
right? So about 10 years ago.
But the world has changed significantly since then. So. All right, thank you.
Any other questions on that one? Next one is the grants and gifts. This again is not anything too involved as far as what's there, but there are a couple of things that I've inserted that are new. The bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2, it talks about long range forecasting. So if you are presented with a grant application, these are some questions that we're going to ask the applicant to answer in advance. And they're pretty, shall we say, normal things to ask, but I find if they're not written down, then sometimes they're not asked and then there's a problem later on. So for instance, will the grant, meet the mission and the needs of the county for a particular function? Well, usually, yeah, I mean, that's why you're applying for it. But are there future costs? Is this just paying the first year of 10 years? Is this paying the first year of forever? And where are the other funds going to come from in future years if we accept the grant? So questions like that you can expect to have answered before it gets to your table. And so you'll be able to see all that before you're asked to make a decision. The very last one, is there a reason to believe that grant or gift could result in the appearance of impropriety? And if yes, then that's a perfectly good reason to not accept that grant or gift. At the bottom of page 2, there's a section called grant administration, and this just lays out what happens if a fund or if a grant is awarded. The funds, of course, will be deposited with the treasurer. There will be documentation that will be required to be submitted not only to myself, but to the finance director. So we know the grant is here. And if there are any rules that we need to comply with, we'll have that all ready to go in a file. By the bottom of 6.7.4, if there are restrictions on the grant and the board has asked for those restrictions to be removed and the granting agency will not, you will have one final opportunity to decline the grant. So if it's just something that you just don't feel you can support, you're not required to accept the funds and tie yourself down to that. So we're just making that very clear at the outset that you will ultimately have the final decision. Any questions on that? This last one was triggered. Actually, I was working on it before the email showed up. There is a court case right now involving the county. And a couple of you may have seen the email this morning. It has to do with a land use case. And one of the questions that the attorney was, if we go to a settlement conference, who is designated to approve a settlement on behalf of the county? Now, obviously, unless the full board goes, you won't be able to do that as a county board. You can't call a special meeting and go into closed session and go through court and all. It's just not practical. So what usually happens is these things aren't generally a surprise. Board will be taken into closed session. You'll be advised of the pros and cons of any kind of a settlement that the attorney might come up with and decide there what your parameters are. Then you send me to that settlement conference with the attorney, with the opposing counsel, the plaintiff, defendant, whomever it might be, and the court representative. And we go through that mediation. And if we come up with an agreement that is within the parameters that you've set, we sign on right there. Now, typically, courts require somebody to be there with that. So it's going to be incumbent on us at the staff level to make sure you're aware, number one. But number two, it also expedites things. We don't go through the court, come up with a settlement, and then come back to the board and on a fluke, we just don't get it done. That's just not going to be acceptable to the court. So that, anyway, was what kind of had me thinking I need to bring this sooner rather than later. So what would this policy do? Well, a couple of other things that are involved, and these are things, again, that you want to think about here over the next couple of weeks. And even when we meet in 2 weeks, there's no urgency that says you have to have this adopted then. So if there are other issues that you find over the next couple of weeks, there's plenty of time to go through it. But down at number 6, if you look at that policy section, this is what's going to set some parameters. And these numbers, let's say they're arbitrary, but they're discretionary on your part if you want to change them. This policy would allow me to settle any kind of a claim or litigation, separate agreement, when the value of that claim is $10,000 or under. Now, why would we do that? Well, there are some claims that come about that frankly, you probably don't want to hit the experience that risk control covers. You don't want to dip into that retention fund or get into any of that. We can resolve it without hitting the policy and potentially affecting rates. So that's what that's all about. Also, if on 6.2, if something happens where we caused property damage and the out-of-pocket cost of repairing that property damage is under $25,000, you would allow me to resolve that. An example, most recent one I dealt with in Ogama County again, was one of our transit buses backed into a row of mailboxes. You'd be surprised how much it costs to replace a row of mailboxes, but there were about, at least 8 or 9 mailboxes on the stand. And yeah, it wasn't a huge accident, but it's just one of those things that you want to get cleared up. Now, you don't want to drag it out. You don't want to go through litigation with it or anything like that. Now, when it comes to resolving something like this, we do ask the property owner in a case like this to sign a waiver that says, this is it. Once we've paid you, and that's it. There will be no litigation. There'll be no other, meeting of the board for more money. This is it. So we're allowed to get that resolved usually quickly. In that case, we had trouble tracking down who it was that owned the mailboxes. And once we finally got that figured out, then we were able to get that cleaned up. Also, sometimes we might have maybe a slip and fall on county property. Maybe it results in a sprained ankle, relatively minor injury. When those things happen, person goes to their doctor and it's a sprained ankle. They get treated for that. Give us the bill. Rather than going through some long, prolonged process of reclaiming your funds or getting a check back, we'll just deal with that up front. We verify that with seeing invoices and just make sure that we're paying just for that treatment that was directly related. And that's that. Finally, 2 more things. Again, checks and balances. Anytime that there is a settlement, you will be informed at least quarterly that it's happened. I will probably, because these are so unusual and rare, bring the information to you as commissioners in real time. So as it's happening, you'll be aware of it. But second, anything that we do to settle any of these claims will be run by the attorneys as well. So we don't want to have any problem in the future as a result of something that we wrote in one of those settlements. So that's the nickel tour of all those policies. Any questions on any of them?
You need us to make any type of movement tonight on that settlement authority for that case?
Yes, if you would, it'd be very appropriate. I know the attorney would appreciate it if there were a motion from you, maybe me as your representative on that case. It's a meeting that a settlement conference is scheduled right now for February 27th on a zoning matter. So I appreciate that there's some vagueness to that, but if there were a motion to that effect, I know they would appreciate it.
I so move.
I'll second it.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Jan to approve for Tim to work on the settlement. All those in favor, say aye.
Thank you. That's it.
Yep. George?
Well, on I believe the 19th. Yes, 19th, this was a rare afternoon meeting in Breckenridge. They didn't have enough for the evening quorum because the basketball team is doing very well and they didn't have any quorum for that night. So they had it during the day, which is perfectly fine with me. I like it that way. I don't have to drive at night. So, they introduced their budget for the year. Just the first go around. And so they've just been discussing just the natural things that go on in the city, water, sewer, everything else that has to go on with the city. Of course, they don't have their officer right now, and they're discussing what to do with that what they're doing with the vacant position. In fact, they're having a meeting tomorrow night, a joint meeting with Wheeler Township and Breckenridge. They have once a year, they have a joint meeting, which I think is wonderful. They get together and talk about the common interest of the township and Breckenridge. They do a lot of things together. So They'll be having that tomorrow night. That being said, Kurt Giles and myself are going to be attending that meeting, the first part of the meeting. We're going to discuss Alma transportation. There's an opportunity over them for them to be able to join the authority. Now, it's a millage driven, 0.8 mills. And I think it's an excellent opportunity to help that 46 corridor with transportation. Now, that would afford them transportation all the way to the state line, or state line, county line. Being that it's in Saginaw County, they could and are eligible to write agreements with the authority in Saginaw County to work with them. So it actually could extend farther either way. So there's an opportunity there. I'm all for it. I bring people together. Kurt Giles is the head of the authority, which is Pine River Township, St. Louis, and Ithaca. And they would be added to that authority. And so it's authority so they can tax and run a millage. That would be hopefully on this year's election cycle. They could get that into place. So hopefully in the future, I could foresee that whole corridor, if you will, from Saginaw to Montebello County, with Alma Transportation. And so it's an excellent opportunity. I know the people in Ithaca voted in overwhelmingly, and when they did, I've never talked to one person that was not satisfied with the service, with their ability to get a ride. A lot of the older folks that don't like to drive anymore, or can't drive anymore, they use it to go to Elma and do it doctors. We've got a lot of people that come from Elmer over here to the courthouse. It's just been well-used service, and I think it's great, So tomorrow night, we'll be going over there, introducing that to them and see where it goes. And also went to the health department. I'll let Steve have that. I've talked long enough.
Tim?
Oh, I didn't go in. My meetings are next week. However, today I purchased hearing aids. So I do a lot of listening, so I think that's gonna be an improvement.
Okay, good. Well, all of my meetings are next week too, so I don't have anything to report. Jan?
I don't have anything either.
How do y'all get so lucky that you only have 1 week? Y'all need 6 townships, 2 villages, and a whole bunch of commissions. You can go to meetings every day of the week.
We didn't tell you to sign up for this.
On January 21st, the day after our last meeting, we had Parks and Recreation meeting. They gave updates on what they're doing at the parks right now, a lot of brush trimming, winter type maintenance, getting things ready for the spring. Updating on a mower, similar to other aspects of the county. Parks and Rec have 3 mowers. They tend to update one every year. So John presented that to us. One of the bigger things we talked about that I think is kind of exciting is new signs. If you've been to the 2 big parks, Reed or Hubshire recently, those signs are getting old. We're starting to show some serious weather and things like that. So revamping those new signs, original quote was to get signs for all of the parks. I think we scaled that back, mainly go with the 2 big parks, see how those signs turn out, and then maybe we'll carry it on another 1 or 2 a year to get the rest of the signs updated. We have very nice signs, and John and I found something out last Tuesday. They look very similar to the ones in Clinton County. Amazing that maybe the same person was in charge of our parks and their parks at different times, but they look almost identical. So anyhow, we will have much more modern, newer looking signs. They're really going to dress up the entrance of the park, I think, a lot. I'm going to not talk about the next things we talked about because that's why John is here. The next 2 items that were discussed at length. Then last Tuesday, John and I went and met with the Clinton County Parks Director, Kyle Thornton. I've known him my whole life,
or his whole life, because he's younger than me, but reference security cameras at our parks and updating the security system. John has been then in contact with Matt on what are our limitations. Some of our parks, we've got good electrical and Wi-Fi access. Others we don't. So just like Clinton, they have places that they have good Wi-Fi and they have places that they don't. So we're in a very similar situation, and they're actually updating some of their systems right now that I think will get us some much needed surveillance stuff that so John can monitor what's going on at different times at the parks. So we'll be hearing about that more to come. On the 28th, George and I went to the health department over in Stanton. Now we're not in January anymore, but January is radon month. So we heard about radon. There was free radon kits. If you wanted one there, you can still get them at the health department. If you haven't ever checked your house, I strongly suggest you get your house checked. You could have 4 houses in a row that were all built the exact same year. And one of them might have radon and the other 3 wouldn't. So, and they recommend you get it checked every 3 to 5 years. It's totally free. So there's really no reason.
That's radon. What is?
Radon, it's a natural gas that comes out of the rock underneath in the Earth's surface. The scary part is it's the second leading cause of lung cancer, only second to smoking. So it's a real deal. So I highly recommend anybody get your house checked. It's free. It's pretty easy test to do. You hang it in your basement, take it out in a couple of 72 hours and send it in, and they'll tell you what your radon levels are. And if you have it, it's something that's fairly easy to get rid of. I mean, there's mitigation systems that are not super expensive, and it takes the radon levels way down. If you have a sump pump crack in your house, there's a possibility, or if your cement and your floor has a crack in it, there's a possibility that radon is getting in your house and you don't even know it. You can't see it, smell it, taste it, anything like that. So
You have to have a basement.
crawl space,
Space,
anything where you got exposed, they disrupted the soil to put your house in. Yep, you have. So it's a good thing to get checked. Organizational meeting, nothing changed. Every position stayed the same. So we still have Adam Peterson from Montcalm County as our chair, George as our vice chair. And then all the other subcommittees stayed the same. We elected to keep our meetings on the 4th Wednesday of every month, and we're gonna stay on the same cycle. So we were at Stanton last month, be in St. John's next month, Gratiot County in March. So we just keep rotating them through. As long as you remember where you're going, you're all set.
Well, we've discussed that too.
Yeah, exactly. Because occasionally somebody shows up at the wrong one.
Everyone's
Every now and then.
show up the wrong place.
And then Dr. Morse, being wintertime, did her health presentation on influenza and how, they strongly recommend anybody get the flu shot, because even if it misses a little bit, it still helps protect you. It was kind of alarming how many kids have died. Yeah, I mean,
Tremendous amount.
it's not,
It really hurts little ones.
yeah, it really has an effect. I mean, last year was 200 and some, and we were like a quarter of the way there.
Your senior citizens and kids.
Kids, it's really, so I mean, it's serious, and I mean, perfectly healthy people die.
Left you and I out, oh, that,
Yep.
younger than that.
The 29th, I went and met with Greater Gratiot. So Thursday I went and met with Greater Gratiot in their office. It was kind of nice because although I know all of them, kind of in passing, didn't really have a chance to sit down, and I think I was there 2 hours. We had a really nice conversation. Casey provided me with some of the topics that we discussed, which affected, my area in particular. She had some ideas that showed up the very next day in an email. And I just was telling Shelley today that I had a chance not only to talk to the gentleman who's expressed interest in buying a abandoned building and business in my jurisdiction, but provide him with the possible resources. And then right now, we talked about it actually at our health department as well. Things going on with sewer systems I think they were talking about Pearson was the small town over in Montcalm County right now. So some of these smaller towns that don't have a traditional septic system like Ithaca, you know, your sewage doesn't go into a tank, it goes right into the sewer system and then
There's the lagoons here.
there's the lagoons here. Some of our smaller towns that are maybe connected to larger municipalities, I think it was Pearson, they were talking about, they're actually installing brand new, because the sewer system came into play later on. They're installing, every home will get a 1,500 gallon septic tank.
Like North Star has
Like
it.
North Star has, and then it will, just the excess water that flows out of them will then be,
The drain field all is connected into one.
and it comes to the, so we have a couple of systems similar to that, North Star and Pompeii
Right.
have similar systems. So it was interesting because we still have communities in this county that don't have municipal sewer systems. So it's, and then we have one, you know, in Fulton Township that's an older one that they're looking for grants and what have you to really vastly update that. So it's something that I get to hear about every month at meetings. And last night I was waiting for my wife to get home on the slippery roads from Chicago, so I did not go to Perrington. I let them know, and I didn't get any hate mail or anything back, so but I was okay missing that.
You know? Animal Shelter Annual Report, Jamie.
Good evening. Promise I'll try and make this short day.
Hey,
We had a super busy year this year, animal control. I told our new guy, Nathan, when he started in January, that January and February were normally a little bit slower, and I think I stuck my foot in my mouth too early on that one. So anyways, we ended 2025 with a very high live release rate of 99%. This is our 6th year in a row hitting such a high percentage. Our adoption rates have been through the roof, but that also means our intakes of animals at the shelter has been also very high. But with the teamwork of everyone at Animal Control, our foster programs, our adoption programs, the social media outreach, and everything is working better than usual. We have successfully managed the rise in strays and surrenders with amazing numbers to show at the end of this year. This year, we have continued with our vaccine clinics with our vet that's been volunteering his time. We not only have been able to vaccinate for rabies, but also included a 9-way vaccine and a 5-way vaccine to help protect the animals against the risk of diseases like parvo, distemper, and lepto. This last year has been a year of growth for animal control and our shelter. The teamwork that has been demonstrated this year between our officers is heartwarming to watch. As the director, I couldn't be more proud of the hard work and extra effort that our animal control officers and shelter staff have exhibited this year. From answering phone calls, emails, and messages even after hours, to facilitating adoptions on weekends when we are over full, they have shown what a passion for the animals of this county they each have. Each animal control officer has grown and developed their own strengths in this field. Officer Lindsay Hitzman has an eye for investigation. Nathan has quite the knack for social media. Shelter staff Riley Waldron has also held down the office when the days get crazy for our officers. She always makes sure we are kept up to date with whatever decorations for the next holiday that we are expecting. She's also on top of her daily duties of helping to take care of the animals' licensing and answer the complaints and making sure we're all headed to the right complaints as well, and helping to keep our facility clean. Our officers have also concentrated heavily on training this year. Some of the things that we have been trained on this year are as follows. We've been trained in the captive bolt training for the E-rail trailer. We have had firearms training with the Sheriff's Department, tranquilizer training, advanced large animal handling. We've attended 2 conferences held by MACO. We've had training with our CPS team in Gratiot County. We've had defensive tactics training, and we're working on the lean training as well. Many other training courses have been held in our office. These extra trainings will continue in 2026, and it's my belief that well-trained animal control officers are what will continue to keep our staff safe as well as the community and animals we serve. We've applied for several grants this year. The first was to a business that would like to remain anonymous for spaying and neutering for animals that have been adopted from our shelter. We were awarded $5,000 and have used the entire grant already. The second grant to MDART for funds that will go toward our vaccination clinic, microchipping for our shelter and owned animals, training costs to help cover some of the training for our animal control officers, and spay and neuters for dogs at the shelter as well. We have been awarded $1,000 towards staff training, $2,600 toward community vaccination clinics, and another $5,000 towards spay and neuters. We've also worked very hard on a relationship with local vets and other rescues. A few we would like to share our thanks for that we have worked closely with this year are as follows. Gain has been absolutely wonderful to work with. Anytime we have a question that we don't know an answer to on the health of a cat, these ladies show up and help us find those answers. If we are overly full on cats or facing a hoarding situation, they are there to help. If we have a vaccine clinic and not quite enough hands to cover all the stations, they show up and are volunteering their time. Gratiot County Animal Shelter and the TNR program that we assist Gain with were able to fix 189 cats this spring and summer. They have also offered us an opportunity to get our shelter cats fixed through them for only $50, which is the same amount as the spay deposit through our shelter. So either before or after adoption, 26 shelter cats were also sterilized. They have been a wonderful support system for our shelter, and we look forward to continuing working with them this upcoming year. Blue Feather Wellness out of St. Louis is a new vet to our area. They have also been wonderful to work with, and anytime we have an emergency vet visit, they work very hard to get us in as fast as possible. Again, if we have questions, there's been many occasions where we've been able to call and receive the answer right over the phone. They have provided coupons for free wellness exams for the pets that were adopted out of our shelter, and we look forward to working with them as well. Whole Veterinary Service has also gone above and beyond this year. We received the grant for the spade and neuters, and they provided a low-cost option for our shelter so we could stretch that grant as far as possible. 27 dogs and cats were able to be sterilized through this program. We have also had several after-hour emergency vet visits that they generously accepted and provided care for the animals that were suffering. We cannot be grateful enough for the continued support of this wonderful clinic and everything they do to make the lives of animals better. Here are some highlights I would like to share with you. In 2025, we took in 326 dogs and 116 cats. Our home-to-home option, we had 180 dogs and 45 cats find their new home without ever having to enter the shelter. Claimed to owners was 140 dogs and 5 cats. Adopted was 173 dogs, 98 cats, of which 103 of those animals were sterilized through our shelter program and partners. Transferred to other MDARD registered shelters, 9 dogs and 13 cats. Shelter animals that had to be euthanized, we had 4 dogs. Unfortunately, 2 were too aggressive to be safely placed into a new home, and 2 had severe injuries that unfortunately they could not come back with. Owner request euthanasias, we had 157 dogs and 88 cats. Complaints answered in the county by the animal control officers was 1,450. Our licenses sold was 3,768 with 91 kennel licenses. We had 3 rabies shot clinics in 2025 with another happening in late March of 2026. We have continued our relationship with a local veterinarian who comes and gives those vaccines to the dogs that are being adopted so that they can be licensed with the county at the time of adoption. We have volunteers or community service hours. Works donated 912 hours to the shelter doing various tasks. We'll be mailing out our late license renewals in early March. We will also be starting our kennel inspections in March, as long as the weather allows. We look forward to another successful year of helping the citizens and the animals of our county. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
I have one. How much does it cost for a owner requested euthanization?
Depends on the weight of the animal. Cats are $25, and normally dogs that are 50 pounds or less are about 50. We do have to up it a little bit for the heavier dogs just because the extra cost.
Yes, thank you.
You talk a lot about training, and I'm all about training. I think it's wonderful. And I know just within this last year, calendar year, is when you guys are now carrying sidearms and what have you. And it's great. Glad to hear that you're training with the sheriff's office. I remember that was part of the whole package when you presented it. Training funds. I know that I worked with the sheriff to get his training budget expanded. Still needs lots of massaging, but we made some progress to making it what I considered in 2019, I wanted it to be, and we didn't ever get there, but we're making steps to get there. I don't want you to be afraid to ask for more funds when it comes time to build your budget. Obviously, you guys built your budgets differently this year with Ryan here. Department heads were way more hands-on than it ever in the past. And in your position with the type of work that your staff is doing, training is vital important. I'm sure you guys were just last week or the last few days doing DT with the sheriff's office. But there's other specialized training that more goes towards what you guys do than the sheriff's department. Don't be afraid when that time comes to, I don't want you to go crazy, you know what I mean? And what we're asking for training, just because we have to be conscientious of our budget, but training is what is going to make you and your staff better. It's going to make you better equipped for the people we're dealing with today. And I know part of your presentation on why you wanted to be armed was we're seeing the pendulum swing towards more violence and that sort of thing. All you gotta do is turn your TV on, you can see it in society. Don't be afraid to ask for some extra training funds so that you can make sure your staff gets that. And if you need me to go to bat, talking to whoever, I will, trust me, because the same thing with him, because there's a spot per officer he has, I want him to get to, and that's 2019 levels, so it really needs to go higher than that, but I want us to get there simply because I know how much this stuff costs. I know how much it means to your staff, and I know how much it means to the citizens of the county to know we have the best trained staff out there. And so
I appreciate that.
you talked a lot about training, and that I made a note that I wanted to make sure that you're getting the funds you need to do the training you need.
Especially with everyone being so new, we wanted to really make sure
Absolutely.
the training as hard as we could this year to make sure.
Absolutely, but continued training is what's going to make you the most professional organization that you can be. And it's what's going to get you, it's going to save your bacon in a lawsuit, because hopefully if your staff is well-trained, you don't end up in one. We don't want to have him be there to administer for the county, you know what I mean, in settlement things. If you're well-trained and you're doing your job the best of your ability, it really brings down that threshold. So that's why I bring it up.
I have a question also. When you're out and you find there's a mean dog, do you use mace or I just got a magazine, and the magazine, they have this, looks like mace, but it's an electrical thing that you would shoot at a dog or whatever. I was told two things. One is that make sure if I have mace because we have a lot of dogs around where I live, and some of them are a little bit violent. So I just carry the mace. A friend of mine told me today, I better practice with it. According to how the wind is coming, if that wind is coming towards me, I'm going to get it instead of the dog.
You'll
I did
remember
not-
that you sprayed it.
Yes, we do carry spray.
You do?
Yep.
And what about this new, I just saw it in a magazine that came to me. Looks just like mace, but when you hit it, it's electrical. And so another friend of mine told me that I have to go to get a license for like a gun or something, or take those classes.
Talking about a taser or something.
Taser, and I think it's a.
Taser, talking about taser.
We do believe that's something that's in the works for this year. For working in the training department on that as well for us.
Well, if they're selling it in a magazine, can I buy it or I can't buy it?
Buy it, you just legally can't use it. It's like a lot of other things you can buy, legally can't buy it.
It's better whether you carry it, use it.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Good job.
Parks and Recreation Grant Awards, John?
Good evening. Back in 2020, Gratiot County Parks and Rec was approved for a millage that states a portion of the funds be set aside to be distributed among local municipalities. They are only used for new parks or recreation projects that demonstrate a direct recreation benefit. It's not used for maintenance or operations. These funds can be awarded in full to one municipality or beat up if we have multiple applications. But it's up to $100,000 that is set aside to be given out. For this year, we received 5 grant projects that ranged from new playground equipment, adding pavilions, adding multi-purpose courts. And so when at our last Parks and Rec meeting, we recommended that the commissioners, you guys approve 2 of the 5 applications. And those 2 would be, the Village of Perrington for $20,333. That they want to add a new swing set and a tube slide to the, new equipment they received from us last year. And the other one would be Wheeler Township for 25,000. They would like to put a multi-purpose court in, which consists of a basketball court, pickleball court, and a shuffleboard court. So between those 2, the total would be $45,333. Now I know some of you are wondering, why is that not full amount or close to the full amount? We are currently working with local municipalities to put in a splash pad in Gratiot County. So the reason for that is that's going to take a majority of the rest of those funds, maybe even a little bit more depending on the size and location and things like that. But we are in communication of adding a splash pad and bringing one to Gratiot County. With these recommended projects, they represent the excellent bang for the buck, going to get use out of them for the location and what they are used for. And they all fall within the grant guidelines. So, like I said, we're just asking for your approval for those 2 grant applications.
I really think that this splash pad thing has been being talked about. Yeah, ever since I became a commissioner and was assigned to Parks and Rec, we've been talking about it. Dave's very aware, we've been talking about this. We're finally starting to move in the direction where you've got some municipalities who are really interested in doing it. Breckenridge has one, very popular. Other municipalities around here, John's done a ton of research and got prices and quotes so that when we actually go to these municipalities, we have some real numbers to talk about. And what's going to cost them to maintain it, because we're not putting it at a county park, we're putting it at a municipality's park. So it's not going to be ours to, I guess you'd kind of call it seed money to help them get started. Because if we can put forth a substantial chunk of money and then maybe through private donations, they can raise another chunk of money, it really takes some of that strain off the municipality. I think that's Breckenridge actually did some of that fundraising to get theirs.
In fact, they just got another grant to redo their,
Yeah,
completely redo it.
yeah, so they're trying to, I mean, these things are very popular. If you've been to Carson City, St. John's, Breckenridge, if it's warm, kids are playing in them. Adults too. I mean, they are very popular. So I think that it's going to be a good thing for the Parks and Rec to help these municipalities get some of these things started. It's all of these projects have merits that were submitted, every single one of them. Some of them you can tell, I think from talking to Dave, some of them are really well written and I don't know if they have a grant writer that works on them for them or whatever, but there's a difference when you read through all of them, correct, Dave? You sit on the subcommittee that works on these. There's a definitive difference between some of these grant applications, and they chose ones that you can read it top to bottom and go, oh, I know what that money's gonna be used for. That, there's diagrams of where it's gonna be, where they're gonna put this stuff and how it's gonna fit into their current park situation. So that's why they picked the ones they did.
It's a splash pad.
It's a big concrete slab that's got like water jets that shoot out of the ground, or like a big dumping bucket that fills up and the bucket falls with water. Squirt
One
guns.
stands there and they,
So it would be it's all remote control. So if no one uses it for a couple hours, they can come hit a button, all the water turns on. But you can also set a timer. It only works from 11 a.m. till 6 p.m. or whatever. And even if someone comes before those times or after, they hit a button, no water turns on. And there's a couple different options. You can freeze flow, so the water will just go down to a drain into the sewer, or they can recycle like a swimming pool. It just gets treated every time, and then you just keep the same water.
Filtered and treated, it's exactly what it's a huge swimming pool.
Huge swimming pool, yeah. So, but it's not deep. It's not even ankle deep, so. But it's for all age age groups. You can put a little section for little babies and they can just sit there and splash. And over here, you can have bigger toys, bigger sprinkler systems, you know, you name it. And you can add pretty much whatever you want to them, so.
Hear a motion?
I so move that we approve the Gratiot County Parks and Recreation for the amount of $45,333 to be awarded to the Village of Perrington for $20,333 and Wheeler Township for $25,000.
I'll second it.
This, the total cost for Wheeler is approximately 25. Their actual request was for 18,733.
Oh. John.
You know,
Well, and again, the reason for that is the request that they put 25%.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so I need to redo my total. 39,066, right? I did that, yep, $39,066. So I would like to amend my motion to be that we would like to award $39,066 to be divided between the Village of Perrington for $20,333 and Wheeler Township for $18,733 for a total of $39,066.
Okay, I'll second it.
Moved by Steve, supported by Jan, to approve the grants for Perrington and Wheeler Township. Probably should have a roll call.
Okay. Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Sapsy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Motion carried.
thank you very much.
Done.
Thanks, John.
Gratiot County Department of Community Development Annual Report.
Leandra here. So Tony's gonna come up to give the report, and there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end. But there's two mistakes that I made that we didn't catch in time, so we just wanted to point them out to you because they do affect the numbers that are part of the presentation itself. Okay, so on page 66 of the report, your guys' is 66, under building permit revenue, the total amount due is what's due for that year. Based on what we invoice out and then how much they paid for those invoices for whatever calendar year it's referencing. For 2022, it says that the total amount due was $6,319.23. But my math was wrong. It was actually $5,142.23. And we get those numbers just by taking how much we invoiced that year and then how much they paid for those invoices, again, only for that year. So that's how much was due that we invoiced out in 2022 that they hadn't paid yet by the end of the calendar year. And those numbers are gonna be on the graph that Tony's talking about, so they don't match what's in the report. That was my mistake. And then the second one was on page 71, under the blight data for 2024. So all of those graphs are pulled from last year's report, and I think that one just didn't transcribe over correctly, and I obviously didn't catch it. So the numbers in the actual lines next to the townships are correct. But the totals at the bottom regarding how many were submitted, open, closed, and in prosecution were not correct. So it should have been 12 were actually submitted, and then 12 were open during that time. 4 were closed during that year, and then we had or 2 were closed during that year, and then 4 were in prosecution at that time. But again, that was just, we just pulled those tables from last year's report. So obviously somewhere those numbers weren't pulled correctly. Okay. But again, Tony's gonna be going through all the data for this year. And then if you guys have any questions,
I do have some questions.
answer them.
There is a lot of mistakes in the adding on mine. So I don't know if it's your computer or.
In which section?
You've got a minute. I'll take and show you. I just did some of them. This is probably the most important one. Right? Oh, good. These are added wrong here.
Nope. So these numbers here, this total amount due is the That's what I was just talking about. So this number is incorrect because I subtracted these incorrectly. This number comes from taking 125 minus 116 because this was what was invoiced in 21. This is what was paid and invoiced in that year. All these numbers here is what was paid during that year, but they were invoiced in prior years. So this total amount due, this is how much is due for 2021's invoices.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably, can we have you, like, you don't have to do it today, but at our next meeting, just go ahead and do some of these over. There was some there and some of the numbers. I need to have a copy that's gonna be correct, with my stuff. Yeah,
See,
so. It should be 60, not 66. And, I think that's a, yeah.
Yeah, so these numbers are correct, those are what I'm saying, but do you want?
These numbers are correct here?
Yeah, so this is 125, 958 minus 116, because this is the data for 2021.
Okay,
The 1530 is what was invoiced in the prior year, so we don't count that for what's due for 2021.
so how did you get this number? You took this from this?
So the amount paid, that's how much we received in revenue. That is what was invoiced in 2021. And then there's also money that was paid from prior invoices from 2020.
Okay.
Because someone could pull a permit on December 25th, but they don't pay it until January 1st.
Mhm.
So it was invoiced in a prior year, but paid in the next year.
I see.
So these four are correct, but that's what I just mentioned is this one is not correct. That one
Okay,
is wrong.
this one is wrong.
Yeah. But the other ones,
He's got
I can see where it's confusing, but this
Yeah.
is the data specifically for that year. It doesn't include prior years.
If you just do even this page over, and how about the rest of them in here? Like, are these right? And like this stuff
Yeah,
here?
and these ones aren't broken down, like, so soil erosion is broken down. Zoning is not broken down to this extent, just because the numbers are so minimal.
Okay.
So it doesn't say what was invoiced in the prior year
Uh-huh.
or what was paid from the prior year.
Okay, and then there's differences here too.
Yep, so these just didn't include Bill Leonard's numbers, his inspection
Oh,
numbers.
so those did not.
I mean, he did obviously do the work, but he just wasn't included.
I see. Okay. I guess you'd have to ask the other commissioners too.
Yeah.
Okay, if they wanted it redone over or anything. Yeah, thank you very much. I was sitting there
No.
doing nothing, so I thought I'd
It's
do some
fine.
figuring.
I figured breaking out those numbers that way, it's
Uh-huh.
obviously more informative, but it's also more confusing because they're including two different years.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dee. So we'll get that corrected and resubmitted. I'd like to thank Deandra for putting the report together and also this PowerPoint presentation that I'll just go through. If you're ready, just kind of gives an overview of what we do and who we are. So these are the 5 things we look at. Building, zoning, we do 6 townships. We got Elba, Hamilton, Lafayette, Newark, North Star, and Sumner. All the other municipalities, townships, cities have their own zoning person, own zoning officer. Those are the 6 that we do. SCSC, we do everything in the county except the city of St. Louis. Now, all 3 of us in the department are certified. We both have 2 licenses from Eagle to do the soil erosion inspections and enforcements. Blight, we've got 9 municipalities signed up. Now, this is something that we need to work on. We all know it. Moving forward, we're gonna have some more conversations about this and how it's working. And then again, I oversee buildings and grounds. So we manage and maintain county-owned buildings and property. The health department, this block, the annexes, help at Commission on Aging, 911, animal control, landfill, a little bit at the airport once in a while. I kind of skipped through a little quick there in the beginning. As far as building, we issue permits and enforce and do plan review for the entire county. Now, the city of Alma and the city of St. Louis actually issue their own permits. They contract with the county to do the enforcements, inspections, plan review and all that. So works out good for them because they don't have to pay an inspector. They just take a percentage of the fee, the permit fee. And it helps our department financially. So it's a win-win for all of us, I think. It's been working out real good. St. Louis, we just started, about a year ago. So it's a breakdown, community development, there's myself, and then we've got William Leonard. He handles zoning and, blight enforcement. Now, William is, contracted for 29 hours a week. He's not supposed to go over 29 hours a week. Then Deandra is our deputy permits officer. She handles, a lot of different tasks for us. Even with the buildings and grounds, she helps, tremendously. Paperwork, she can do SCSC inspections. She handles, does a lot with blight enforcement and it's just a daily grind. Going over to buildings and grounds, my project supervisor is Lonnie Richards and then Kevin Lombard. They take care of the maintenance. I tell you, hats off to those guys. It's been brutal. They've been out 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, -10 wind chill, actual air temp some mornings, and they're getting it done. Then we've got Sylvia Perdomo and Lori Thomas, our custodians. So this is just a little slide about continued education. There's a certain amount of credits that Bill and I have to maintain our 4 licenses through Lara for building official, building inspector, plan review, and then general contractor too. But and then Deandra's continuing her education through MSU. There's a certain amount of classes she takes, and it's real helpful in working with the planning commission, zoning, and her position there with the planning commission, all that stuff. So really good resource. Building and address, it's just kind of a breakdown of where we were at compared to previous years. We're about the same as far as permit activity, inspection activity. Revenue, obviously you can see in 2022, it spiked up there pretty good. That was a wind farm. So other than that, we're just about in line with where we've been in the past. We didn't have any big projects last year, no major wind farms or anything like that. So, but we're doing good. Address, same way, you can see it spiked. Even though in 22 is actually when the wind farm took place. A lot of the addresses I did was in 2023. Each one of the turbines got assigned an address for emergency 911. Get a fire or somebody gets hurt, they need to know where they're going. So we ended up addressing a bunch of them, all of them.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
If you have, like, say somebody has 2 wind turbines on their property, do each one have an address or just one address?
Usually one address, if it's just one access point. Yep.
Or like, if you had property, you could put 2 out there, so they have one address, but probably 2 different numbers, so you know which one to fix.
Yeah,
Just wondered.
there's address signs and then there's the actual turbines get assigned numbers by the owner, where it's at, so, yep. Zoning, about the same too, it was up a little bit in 22. Other than that, the numbers stay about the same for the townships that we do. SCSC spiked up again and again in 22. There was a lot of soil erosion with the wind farm. Other than that, we've been stable through. We did go through an audit last fall. We'll touch on that real quick. There were some corrections they wanted made. We resubmitted everything. I've not heard back from Eagle on that. Once we hear back on that, then I'll forward it on to Tim and he will share it with the board. We'll discuss that. Expecting it any day. So. Revenue stays about the same throughout the years, other than that spike for the wind farm.
Wind or solar that caused all that?
There was some solar in there too. Yeah. Now, we didn't do building permits for the solar. There
There's
was some SCSC. Yes, you're correct.
been a whole bunch, because I got some pictures here that
Yeah.
some questions that we'll get to about.
There was soil erosion for that building. That went right through Consumers Energy, so that's a public utility. We didn't permit it. So here we've got just an overview of blight. Now, in 2025, there were 4 complaints submitted. You see the star on it? The complaint forms were submitted, were incomplete, and they were sent back to the townships requesting additional information, and they were not resubmitted.
Would anybody have accepted them? Because we didn't do nothing with it after March. So,
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, well, ceased and desist in March.
Yeah, with the interim and everything going on, yeah.
That's,
Yeah. Yeah.
we need to discuss that when we get through your presentation about what we're doing next.
This is just hours worked, inspections done, 5-year comparison. And moving forward, we're gonna work with the capital improvement plan with carpet replacement, painting as usual. Looking at some windows and lighting, a few other things, upgrading the fire panel. Continued education, and then just office development. So, but yeah, it's that's the end of that. So if there's any questions you wanna ask? Yes, sir.
Start with soil. The solar farm in, I think it's called Polaris in North Star in Washington Township. That was a disaster as far as soil. I mean, a disaster. We had more soil on Crapo Road than
Yeah,
we had in lots of places. I mean, not your fault. I'm just saying,
yeah.
you talk about soil erosion, the amount of mud they tracked out on that road was, you couldn't even drive a car down. You had to have something pretty significant to get out. Some of the erosion that ended up in those ditches out there, you know, the problem is they pay a permit fee. And then I'm not a soil erosion person. All I know is that much dirt's not supposed to end up in the bottom of the ditch, because then that ends up being a taxpayer issue. That they gotta pay for maintenance, or people that are landowners have to pay to have these ditches dredged. And
Right.
I mean, there was a lot of dirt that ended up getting in there because they had to, you know, we were told they weren't gonna, 30 years, you're gonna be able to farm this ground. They hauled all the topsoil away, you know, and created the water pond so that the water could run off, because the soil type is not good to have all these solar panels and the water running down and not having all the topsoil to infiltrate and all that good stuff. But anyhow, I just, if any of these things happen again, I think we need to make sure that we are maybe a little more due diligence to make sure that this doesn't happen again. We learned some lessons, and, you know, I don't think anybody had ever experienced building a solar farm on Ashley Clay. They did it, and it created a mess,
It
not
was.
only for the roads and the road commission and for your division, but also for, you know, the amount of dirt that ended up in our road ditches, the amount of, which ultimately ends up in our county drains, the amount of, the location, that huge county drain running right through it. And that ended up with a tremendous amount of dirt in it. You know, that kind of near and dear to me. That's where I live. Those are the people I represent. So, I mean, I get bombarded with pictures of things that did not go like,
Their access roads seem to be maintained well.
Hmm.
Their access roads entering
Mhm.
seem to be maintained
Mhm.
okay, but
Yeah.
it was
Yeah, it was
a going mess for
It
us.
was an ongoing mess is a good, I mean, it just, if any of these things ever were to happen again, whoever meets with them, you know, they gotta have a plan in place to mitigate this. We can't subject the rest of the county to, you know, these are multi-millions of dollar projects. And I mean, they chipped in and helped some to fix some of the roads, but I mean, they destroyed roads. The countless tons of dirt were hauled, and then that just gets pushed into our ditches, and we're, you know, nobody's there from any of these companies to pay these bills. Taxpayers pay those bills. And to me, that's where I just don't think, if anything like this ever to happen again, we've got to do a better job somehow of mitigating this dirt getting into these ditches and on the road. I don't know what it is. They may have to put in a damn truck wash. I don't know. But you know what I mean? It can't all end up falling back on the taxpayer.
I think that
Fix their
the
problems.
type of soil down there was way underestimated.
Yeah, they had no, I mean, everybody that seen it coming like a freight train, but the people that were building the thing. Okay, does anybody else have a question before I ask my next one? Okay, on the whole blight thing, I talked with the prosecutor about it because a little over a year ago, we had a blight ordinance and then we revamped it. The revamp was gonna make it so we had more teeth in our blight situation and we were gonna be able to do a better job of enforcing. I remember, George, this is near and dear to you too, because you deal with it like I do in my townships. It's been a disaster, is what it turned out to be. I mean, it was a disaster. You have a lot of townships that paid a lot of money and nothing happened because it ended up being, I mean, we started out January, February, March, we got a monthly report that told us everything that's going on, and then it just disappeared and nobody heard anything. I think in the future, you guys ended up with being super busy with some new, I believe some new like requirements on what your staff had to do in other areas with soil erosion and building permits and all that kind of stuff. In the future, if we're not gonna fulfill our duty of what we did, I think we owe it to the people who paid the money to either let them know, send them their money back. And I know that that's not the government's thing to give money back, but we gotta do something so that these people understand what's going on. It leaves a real bad taste in their mouth. It leaves a worse taste in the commissioner's mouth, who has to answer these questions at all these meetings and have zero information to give anybody. And it just got to be really old that we never stepped up and just said, due to time restraints or constraints or whatever, we can't do this. We're going to get together. So when I talked to Laura, that's my suggestion. You have townships who want it. You had a commissioner or a township supervisor in here saying, we're willing to pay a little bit more if that's what it needs, or possibly pay a little bit more. These people are longing for this stuff. People want it, right? Right. People want this. So we owe it to our citizens of this county. We owe it to these townships to come up with a system that works. The current model we're following obviously isn't working. So let's go back and get the powers that be, get your, all the people who are overseeing this thing, get them together, talk, form a committee, whatever we got to do to make our blight system work so that it has some teeth. That may involve bringing the sheriff's office involved in it. So the officers are trained in what they're looking for. In some jurisdictions, that's who does it. That's who goes out and issues the citations, and that's who goes and does some of these visits. And number one, just as we dealt with in my hometown, there was some fear of who they were dealing with on who wanted to go. They wanted a sheriff's deputy with them because of the potential aggression and stuff like that. So let's get our collective minds together to come up with a system that's going to work. And if it involves that we have to bring the law enforcement division in, then we do that to be a part of this, because I just really truly believe there's a lot of people that got a really bad taste in their mouth right now, and we owe it to them to come up with a system that's truly going to work, that they can submit these documents, these complaints, that these complaints are going to be thoroughly vetted. There's going to actually be real results. I know I've brought this up in this room multiple times, but you don't have to go 2 counties north of here. You get into Clare County, I'll tell you what, if they don't oblige by what the rules are, they show up with dumpsters and backhoes and a whole herd of people, and wreckers are coming to take the unlicensed vehicles away, and it happens. And there's a sheriff's department car on one side of the driveway and one on the other side, and one on the back side. and they're there to protect those people who are working. Preferably, they get the person out of there, but sometimes they don't want to leave their property. Well, don't show up with a gun because it's not going to end well. So it's just I really truly believe there's systems in place that work really well. We just got to model ours after something that works really well and get this so that these townships are getting the results they want. That everybody was excited about this. And now that kind of, they got an icky feeling right now.
Our resources were pretty limited, in my
I agree.
opinion.
That's why I said we got to think outside the box. It's not going to happen with your 4-man team. It isn't going to happen. Okay? It's not going to happen. Not the way that we want it to. That's why we got to rethink how we're doing this. Okay? I mean, it's going to run through you know what I mean? But, or you're going to definitely be involved in it because of, the nature of it. But we got to come up with something better that really works and works well. So I just, there's a need for it. People want it. We should be able to come up with something better for our citizens of Gratiot.
I agree with you, 100%.
You didn't even know you were inheriting this thing.
You have anything to add there?
Well, I know Lauren did have conversations with.
Yep.
We're willing to sit down and talk to whomever it is. That's why. We have, whatever that system is below us, can't do anything until it gets to our office. So, as soon as that happens, we'd be glad to prosecute them. There are options for us. We just gotta.
Yeah.
I think it is a tough deal. Again, you gotta be pretty vigilant out there. That's hard to do with a small staff, especially with a bunch of other important duties.
I agree. I think we need to completely rethink what we're doing here. And I really think we can come up with a system that works well for everybody, but it's going to take some outside of the box thinking of the way we have this envision in our head, what Blake looked like in Gratiot County. Obviously, we've proven that didn't work. So let's not try to polish that and make that work. Let's get back to the meat and potatoes of this thing and put together a blight system that's really truly gonna benefit this county. You can drive around any area in this county and go, oh my God. You know what I mean? It's all over. There's places like that. And some townships are worse than others, you know what I mean? But they all deserve something to come about from this and to get some real progress where you can go, they made a difference. It truly made a difference.
One thing that will help, is we did work with a couple townships on dangerous building ordinance. That's a good one for me as a building inspector.
Absolutely.
That's a good tool, because I can only take it so far. And then the township needs to step up.
You bring up a building inspection thing. Are you familiar with this mess down on 57?
I am.
Okay. How did we end up with a $300,000 building 50 feet too close to the highway?
I don't know what the exact footage is, but we don't do the zoning for Washington Township.
I know that, but
No.
there for soil erosion. I mean, anybody can look at that and go, this is way too close. You got houses that were built 100 years ago that aren't that close.
Yeah.
If it was sitting where it's supposed to be sitting, it would have been a whole nother issue because it's been sitting right underneath the power lines, which you can't build a building. You know what I mean? There's so many things that I'm like, how did so many steps get like, now we've got this beautiful building built. They have hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in. And it's like, clearly, as soon as you cross that viaduct, you're like, whoa, that's really close to a major highway. You know, and it's like, how did we get to here before it became an issue? So
I spoke with the owner about that prior to anything. Yeah, I mean, I'm there to look at the structure at that point. I mean, we do call them out. If something looks really, really like, this doesn't look right, well, we've called the townships out before.
This one just seems like it was a complete, like, now we discover that it's completely done. They poured the concrete, they're finishing the inside, and now it's an issue. Like, what in the world happened here?
Definitely didn't.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, it's the one down on south of 57 right there where the service road goes right there, and there's a.
Yep, it's
building
to
right.
the west of that. Yep.
So that's a road. That's
No.
too close to that road,
No, it's too close to 57.
close to 50.
And there's a new building. There's three buildings there now. There's a hoop barn that's been there for what, 10 years?
Yeah.
And then they build a new hay building that's closer to that service drive that goes down there where
I know that it's a new gray, it's a really nice look.
yes, with a big porch around it. It's gonna be a dog grooming and like doggy daycare kind of thing is what it's. It's a
57.
way too close, 57.
I see.
Yep.
I
I was looking at it the other day. I stopped there and I was just like, if they'd moved it back where it's supposed to be, it'd been sitting underneath a major power line. So that,
That either.
you can't do that either. So I'm like, this thing would have taken like, there's so many things that should have been, you know what I mean, noticed before. Now we have this finished building way too close to the road. So.
And when it's zone commercial, sometimes they allow them closer too, you know. That's MDOT road, Dove Lane right there, so, I mean, it's kind of.
Yeah, you got them right out on the highway
No
there.
problem, but I mean, it just wasn't in our.
I don't know.
I just don't want it to end up blowing up and being a huge mess for the owners.
This is.
Well, I know the owners.
Just the county, because it's
Use
gonna be a,
zoning special use for.
it's, I just, and I don't want to see it ever happen again, because it's, you know, I mean, now it's something that gets discussed. annually.
Yeah, but again, no, there's no place to put another building there.
That's my three things I wanted to talk about.
Thank you, Tony.
Or anything else you want to add, Dee, or are we good? This is our co-op worker, Kaylee McPherson, by the way. She's been helping us out after schools, so thank you for allowing us.
Does a
to keep
good
her.
job too.
She does. And we can keep her healthy. All right,
Just marshal her, George, because she's one of your residents.
No.
she's old enough to vote. She just had her birthday.
Hey.
You gotta vote for
Gil.
Vote for you.
All right, we're all set.
Township, isn't she?
We're done with you.
Night.
Tony.
Down the road.
Yeah,
She's in North Star Township,
the other side.
resides, so she's you're her commissioner,
Right. Oh,
not mine.
Okay, we need a motion to enter into closed session.
I'll make a motion that we enter into closed session.
Clarify, you have to state why, and in this case, the session is to consider strategy. It's connected to the negotiation of collective bargaining agreement as allowed under MCL 15.268C.
What Tim said.
right in there. Tim said, or what Tim said.
Second.
There we go.
We didn't get a second yet.
Support. I'll support it. So who made that? Jan?
Yes.
Yes.
And I
We
support.
coming back into session after this?
Yeah.
Wait to adjourn.
We
Oh,
got
I got one more thing. I got
a list to deal with.
Of what?
So
and I got one more thing that I want to bring up then. Can I bring it up before we do this?
Better, yeah.
it's probably a good idea. Just saying.
You and I texted or emailed about this. I think we need to, if you've been paying attention at all in the news, data centers in the state of Michigan. I mean, we have farmers in our county that have been approached about large land purchases. I think Tim said 19 counties
19.
or 19 municipalities are working on different zoning ordinances and what have you. I think Gratiot County owes it to our citizens that we are on the forefront of this, not catching up, that we need to get our zoning in order, so that we have a good zoning ordinance for these data centers. They're coming to the state of Michigan. Whether one lands in Gratiot County, I have no idea, but we owe it to our citizens to make sure we're doing our due diligence to have our ducks in a row.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So,
But you look at reality, we don't have enough power here. They'd have to make their own power. I mean, that's just part of it. And there's certain questions you have to ask these people. Is it your money? And if you got the money up front, you better bond it because you can't start building unless you do. So that's just basics. That's the basic part that has to be in front of any ordinance.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to have the power.
we need to have an ordinance.
Yeah, but I'm just
To
saying,
have the ordinance.
part of it is there's a lot of these guys coming in fly-by-nights
Yep.
and they put leases on the property and that's about all they can do and then they're stuck.
Mhm.
The farmers are stuck.
Oh, yeah, I
I don't want,
understand, but
I don't want the farmers.
this is happening right here, right now, where these farmers are being approached. We need to do our due diligence as a.
What are they gonna do with this property? Are they farming it or?
Well, they're farming it right now, but these are those big data centers.
Potential would be to build a square mile of building.
Building, yeah, exactly. A square mile of building that consumes insane amounts of electricity and water. Insane amounts of.
So what's gonna be in the building?
Computers per year, that just like your AI answers you get,
Just
that's what.
Computers.
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 That's why it needs so much kind of electricity to run that stuff, cool that stuff. That's why it needs so much electricity and water.
Visio, there's a lot of different ones that.
Who are these people that are coming in and they wanna buy land?
Buy or lease, right now, usually they lease the.
They'll lease the property so
They
they.
want to know that it's locked in somewhere.
Who are they?
Yeah,
You know?
I don't know for sure what companies are doing it, but
it's
it's,
several of them, but
yeah, there's lots.
These
It's
are-
like every time you read something from, Howell's dealing with it, Mason's dealing with it. Is it Saline Township? Yeah, Saline Township that's
Hey, down
that's dealing with all this stuff.
by how they got, they like 2,500 acres or some crazy
Yeah,
number,
oh,
640 square acres.
every time you read, Tim, it's a different name that's dealing with it. It's big power companies, it's big computer data companies that are behind all these things.
Is it,
Mostly private equity.
is it because all these companies are leaving California and moving into the United States? Is that some of it?
Well, I think it has more to do with, we are becoming more and more and more reliant on AI. And they need these data centers in order to generate or to have the capacity to do.
Artificial intelligence is the next big thing.
And what is?
Artificial intelligence, that's AI.
It takes a lot of power and a
We've
lot.
got a lot of private equity investors, and they go around and they speculate, they want to build money in a hurry. And a lot of times it doesn't work out and the people that are there get caught for it. And that's terrible. So, yeah,
I would just like, does that take emotion from us, or does that take us telling you, Tim, can you contact the zoning?
Either way, I think it would be more powerful if the board had a motion directing the planning commission to investigate this and periodically report back to you on their progress.
Because I think we need to give them a decent timeframe, 6 months, but it'd be nice to get a quarterly report or something. So, in 3 months, we get some form of a report on that. So I so move that we get our planning and zoning commission to start working on a data center ordinance for Gratiot County. And then that they come back and give us updated reports on the status and where we're at with it.
I'll second it.
Moved by Steve, supported by Jan, to have the planning commission work on some kind of a plan for AI. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, we also had a motion to go into closed
you
session.
had public comments yet? Because if we don't want to come back into session,
Yep, we need to do that second. Yep.
if you ask for public comments now, I'm just trying to figure out, Wes doesn't have to sit here through this.
Yeah.
And he's running his computer or the thing,
The
TV.
the TV.
So if we can close that up, that would be wonderful for us. I'm just trying to think of, so if we just, if you had public comments, and then if there's no more public comments, we'd ask to suspend the meeting and have this, and then the only time we'd come back into session is to actually vote to
Adjourn.
adjourn. You wouldn't have to come back into the TV. That's all I'm saying.
You guys have any public comments? Okay.
In a record.
Did we vote on the motion?
Yeah,